Good evening and welcome to the December public board meeting of the Collingswood Board of Education. Appropriate notice for this meeting has been advertised. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Here.
Ms. Henry?
Here.
Mrs. Maya?
Here.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Here.
Mrs. Savarino?
Here.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Here.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Here.
Mr. Stotts?
Here.
Mr. Dilkus?
Here.
Mrs. Caden?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are going to start this evening with, we've shifted things around slightly today due to a sudden death in our Collingswood community. And so we are going to postpone the secondary school presentation until January's meeting. And Dr. McDowell is going to lead us in a moment of remembrance and silence for Ms. Lisa Marchione.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. First, we'd like to say thank you for joining us this evening. Would like to read a touching tribute written by a retired Collingswood High School teacher, Mr. Neil King. Mr. King worked in Collingswood Public Schools for 3 decades and wanted to help us with this tribute. The Collingswood community and school district lost a great soul on Friday, December 15th. Our Lisa Marchione passed away, and I, like many others, am reeling from the news. She was a kind and thoughtful person who was always eager to give her time to anyone in any situation. There was never a time that someone wasn't in her office to stop by with questions or dilemmas or just to say hello. Lisa had a great gift for making people feel special, and staff and students found comfort in her company. She was a relentless worker who did the job of 2 people with a smile and an energy that was legendary. A great professional who had high standards and loved the traditions of our school and fought to keep them alive. Lisa would speak with great pride about her family and always ask about yours, because that's who she was, and she had enough room in her heart for everyone. The positive in such a tragic, short life is Lisa's influence on all of us. She taught us how to do a job on a very high level and how to treat people in our schools and our community with dignity and grace. At this time, could we please have a moment of silence? Thank you.
I know she was a beloved member of the high school community, and on behalf of the board, our hearts go out to her family and to the staff that are dealing with this on top of the holidays at a very tough time. So we're going to shift from that tough news to back to our regular meeting for the evening. Starting with, we don't have our students here for tonight, so we're going to skip section 4 and move on to section 5, the superintendent's report.
Section 5.01 is the enrollment report. November 2022 was 2286. As of November 2023 is 2252 with the enrollment report attached. 5.02, 03, and 04 are the school safety drill reports, the suspension report, and the anti-bullying report. We just have a few topics that we would like to share aligned with just this season. And so it's important to continue to identify the bright spots that we continue to see in our schools. Even when we are in the midst of a very challenging season. And so as part of our continued focus on positive school culture, a gratitude challenge was issued to schools for the months of November and December, and we asked for schools to think about creative ways in order to incorporate more gratitude in their schools. And so we just wanted to highlight just a couple of examples from some of our schools. And so to kick off this season, Garfield Elementary held a Pajama Day fundraiser on December 1st for CHOP. Their goal was to raise $500, and they exceeded their goal and raised $640. And the check will be presented to CHOP. We're extremely proud of our students, especially in this act of selflessness. Many of the students dug deep, broke into their piggy banks in order to help out additional young people in need. We'd also like to acknowledge Sharp Elementary. At the Sharp School, kindness projects during November focused on classroom posters in grades K through 5 with things that students and staff were thankful for. Students decorated posters that were posted in the main hallway of the building, and in December, they drew and painted light bulbs and lights of kindness which are hung within their facility. And they're posted throughout the building and in classrooms as a reminder of the importance of being kind. At Zane North, our fifth graders took the lead in demonstrating gratitude by participating in Giving Tuesday. Fifth graders gave the gift of their time to others at school as an expression of gratitude for all those who have helped them along the way during their time at Zane North. The students spent their time by reading nonfiction books to second graders, taking notes on important information, helping the preschool students in their learning centers by moving materials, delivering papers, and then helping first graders with their foundations work, supporting students in science, as well as helping lower grades with door decorations for the season. All elementary schools held their 5th annual Pajama Day fundraiser on December 12th to provide holiday dinner for Collingswood Police and Fire Departments as a thank you for our first responders. Inclusive Schools Week, in partnership with the Collingswood and Oakland CPAG and the Special Services team, was December 4th through the 8th with different activities and events. And one of note was actually at the high school, where students and staff created a collaborative banner with puzzle pieces that shows who you are without telling who you are. And it serves as a visual reminder that the pieces fit together and are better when people work together. Special thanks to our CHS Media Center specialist, Mrs. Madden, who keeps our library for middle and high school students stocked with diverse titles for all interests, with a collection of inclusive text currently on display in the LMC. In addition, for Inclusive Schools Week, Collingswood High School is identified as a unified champion school, with their theme this year being Choose to Include. And so we'd like to acknowledge the Unified Club for leading the Holiday Escape Room Challenge. And in this activity, Unified athletes and partners work together in teams to complete different missions, such as solving puzzles, finding items in order to get the key to open the box that has the final task. The goal was to finish before the other team. Both teams did an outstanding job and proudly signed the Choose to Include banner that will be hung within the high school. And so this program is financially supported by Special Olympics and focuses on the inclusion of students with and without learning differences. We'd also like to acknowledge, as part of the Buildings and Grounds Holiday Food Drive, the Interact Club donated $331 to support the food drive using proceeds from the Powder Puff game that took place earlier this month. In addition, we would like to recognize our counseling office. They held on December 12th a financial aid night in the high school cafeteria with representatives on hand to be able to discuss the changes to the financial aid process and answer questions. Please be advised that the financial aid application opens on December 31st. And if you have questions about this process, please don't hesitate to contact the counseling office. Special thanks to the team for this important work, in addition to recognizing students that are accepted to colleges, universities, and other post-secondary institutions through their annual roll calls. And finally, we would like to commend the Collingswood High School Black Student Union. They will be sponsoring a community Kwanzaa celebration on December 20th at 6 o'clock in the library. They are inviting all members of the school and surrounding communities to come to learn about Kwanzaa, join in special activities, entertainment, and food. And that concludes my report for this meeting.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. We are going to have a brief committee of the whole, a motion to enter committee of the whole.
So moved.
And second? All in favor? We would like to use our committee of the whole time this evening to honor our wonderful board colleague, Fiona Henry. This will be her last board meeting with us. So if you will just grant us a moment to get our things together, we're going to be... Okay, I wrote something down because if I just did this, for myself, we'd be here for the rest of the evening talking about Fiona, and of course I grabbed the wrong paper. Okay, so I have so much that I could say about this absolutely wonderful human being, but I know she's the last person who thinks she should be in the spotlight, which is exactly why she should be. I have had the pleasure of serving on the board with her for the past 8 years, and I have learned so much from her. She's been my mentor and has become a dear friend. Fiona approaches everything she does with 150% commitment and passion for the work, and the Board of Education has been no different. Her commitment to service is unparalleled. She has volunteered for this position for 13 years now, long after her children were no longer in the school system, because that is how much she cares about the well-being of all students and cares about this school district. Fiona has the very important distinction of serving as this board's first female president. Pause for applause. Her level-headed approach to governing and inclusive decision-making has become the model for our board. She worked tirelessly to make our board more collaborative and an active partner with the superintendent, and that legacy will live on because of her efforts. We are the board we are today because of her. I could list out everything I have learned from you and how much I will miss you, but that would keep us here all night, so I'm wrapping this up by saying, on behalf of the entire District of Collingswood, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your years of service, and we will be calling on you for consultations, so please be available.
Thank you to everyone.
Okay. All right, so that was all we wanted to do for this evening, knowing that we felt it was most important to highlight how wonderful Fiona is. And we will be back talking about all of the important goings-on in the district in January. So motion to exit committee of the whole. And a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to section 7, future dates and miscellaneous information. You can see there are some PTA meetings, some winter concerts, and the annual 7th and 8th grade snowball dance to take a look at. Moving on to section 8, routine business. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 2023 regular board meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are at our first opportunity for public comment. The purpose for this public comment section is to discuss items listed on the agenda. Additional, more general comments may be made later in the meeting. The public is reminded that attempts to resolve all concerns and complaints should first go through appropriate staff members and administrators. The intent of public comment is to give the community the opportunity to provide feedback to the board. We will be actively listening and taking notes so that we can take all that is being said into consideration. If appropriate, clarifying comments may be made at the end of the public comment section. For more detailed responses to concerns, communication may go out later in the week by the appropriate staff members or administrators, or be discussed by the board during future committee meetings. Members of the public are welcome to speak and expected to do so with the utmost sensitivity to everyone in attendance. In fairness to all who wish to speak, there's a strict 3-minute time limit per person during public comment. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Robin Hogan, 247 Wyoming Avenue, Audubon, New Jersey, president of the CEA. So tonight I won't be giving my usual State of the Union comments. Does the union and our members are saddened now by the loss of a special colleague and friend. The effects of this loss is felt acutely in the high school, but her influence was not limited to the high school. Lisa served as a member of the Zane North PTA for a number of years, and she worked at Sharp. She is well known to the staff at the middle school and every secretary in the district. So many of us know her family personally, and we mourn with Tony, Adam, and Nina. There's really nothing that I can add to the words that have already been shared about Lisa, but we are all better for knowing her. And Thursday night during the winter concert, a tribute was paid to another member who was taken from us much too soon, Mr. Lurch. And of course, no one has forgotten the loss of Lisa Winkler. So now as a family, Collingswood is mourning the loss of Lisa and other members who left us way too soon. Thank you.
Jack McMullen, president of the Collingswood Principals and Supervisors Association, and we would like to express our deepest and most heartfelt condolences to the Marchione family. Miss Lisa Marchione was a valued and cherished colleague whose joyous and optimistic attitude touched the lives of so many, and her life well lived had a profound and positive influence on all with whom she came into contact. Her loss is deeply felt by our entire school community. We will keep the Marchione family in our prayers, our thoughts, and our hearts during this very difficult time. Lisa, we love you. We thank you for everything you've done to brighten the lives of so many of us. You will be missed, but your legacy will forever shine brightly.
Thank you very much for those words. We're going to move on to Section 10, our Business Administrator Board Secretary report.
All right, let me see. Apologies. Item 10.01 is your November monthly transfers. 10.02 is your financial reports. Sorry.
Beth Ann, you want me to do it? I can do it. I'm sorry, I didn't see your face. Okay. 10.03 is the monthly activities report. 10.04 is the food financial statement for the month of October. 10.05 are and 10.06 are the purchase orders and warrants to be sent out later in the week. I've heard Beth Ann say that enough. I know all of those already. Section 11 is the Buildings, Grounds, and Finance Committee, and I will read that as well. The Finance, Buildings, and Grounds Committee reviews all financial statements, purchase orders, and warrants on a monthly basis. The committee also reviews and approves all contracts with outside service providers and oversees all maintenance and capital improvement projects district-wide. So 11.02 through 11.09 are the items listed in the Business Administrator report. 11.10 is the 24-25 maintenance services agreement with so a shared service agreement for maintenance with Mount Ephraim. 11.11 is a revised shared service agreement for administrative services for the Oakland School District for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. 11.12 is an updated subrate for lunch aid. 11.13 is the shared service agreement for the 24-25 school year with Oakland for the media specialist services, excuse me. 11.14 is an RFP for a curriculum audit. We're just looking for proposals, for an audit of the Collingswood Public School District's curriculum. These services will be paid for by ESSER funds that are set to expire, but it is just a request for proposals at this time. Tutoring grants, Huntington Learning Center, to be used at the elementary and secondary levels. And this is also to be paid through ESSER funds or Title I funds or the high-intensity tutoring grant, depending on which level we're talking about as needed. So looking for approval, of items 11.02 to 11.17 this evening. Is there a motion to approve said items?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Questions or comments from board members?
So forgive me, I wasn't in the committee meeting last week, but with the RFP for the curriculum audit, I'm just wondering, is there a way that we can take, I know we can't spend that money on salaries, but is there a way that we can use that money instead of getting a curriculum audit, like something that's going to benefit the kids or go towards the kids or something like that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I think a curriculum audit would certainly benefit the kids, but that's the whole point of an RFP is we're not putting any of the funds towards anything. This was just one of the things that was suggested that could be used for those funds. You're right, things like salaries we can't use the remaining grant money for, and that's something that we will, as the RFPs come back in, that we'll look at whether this is a good use of the money or there's something else that we could use it for.
I mean, I can see how that could be beneficial to students. I'm just thinking of something that's going to have more of a direct impact if we have money that we need to spend that, just out of curiosity, maybe we could expand like the high tutoring impact, or I don't know, just thinking out loud.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, is there nobody in the school district right now that could perform this type of an audit? How then are we going to evaluate the proposals? We won't know what we're looking at.
I'm not sure that's the same thing.
So there's a difference between evaluating the proposals of organizations or individuals that have the expertise and the time versus having internal capacity to be able to do the work. And so we currently do not have internal capacity to do that comprehensive level of work. We're talking about a K-12 curriculum audit across all subject areas.
But their Huntington Learning Center is going to come back and tell us, here's the report, this is what we think.
No, Mr. Stouts, Huntington Learning Center is the company that's doing the high-intensity tutoring.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is just a request for proposals.
This is just the RFP.
Yes.
And
yeah.
we're not approving it.
We're only approving going out for an RFP.
We're not awarding any contracts at
Nope.
this point in time.
No. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Excellent job doing my report.
thank you.
So thank you. Mr. Chu,
Yes.
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
Mrs. Maya. Yes, except for the RFP, I abstain. Sorry, I gotta find which number that is.
11.14.
Thank you. Mrs. Mikulski,
Yes.
Mrs. Severino,
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia,
Yes.
Mr. Stotts.
Yes, except item 11.14 where I abstain.
Mr. Dilkus,
Yes.
Mrs. Caden.
Yes. Moving on to section 12, the curriculum committee, Mr. Chu will present.
All right. The curriculum committee oversees and approves the district curriculum and assessment programs, as well as field trips, home instruction, co-curricular programs, and the school calendar. There are currently no elementary school or middle school field trips up for approval this month. There is a high school field trips up for approval. If I remember correctly, they're the Madrigals, the same group. Let's see, we have an overnight field trip, that's 12.05 to Camp Mason. I think it's the usual 7th grade trip. Then the 12.06 is a renewal of the Camden County High School Plus program, and that's the dual enrollment program with Camden County. 12.07 are a couple of out-of-district placements. 12.08 is a support service for a one-on-one nurse for a student. 12.09 is approval for another out-of-district placement. 12.10 is residency appeal for a student. Would be voting to deny the residency appeal. 12.11 is the district calendar revised for this year. That is revised to add, I forgot exactly the date, March 27th, I think? 28th, back as, instead of being an early dismissal day, a full day. And that came about through discussions with all parties, and also hearing from many folks during the first term of this year. 12.12 is the Flair Dance Studio, approving them to present their WOW experience to the preschool classes. This is at no cost. And so seeking approval of items 12.02 through 12.12.
Thank you. Motion to approve said items?
So moved.
And a second? Questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please. Oh,
I'm sorry. Question on Camp Mason. That seems to be a rather pricey trip. That is somewhere north of $26,000 for the 7th grade for a trip. Is this really beneficial enough to spend that kind of money on it?
I believe the students pay their
I was
own way,
going to say, I'm pretty
correct?
sure it's families pay for it. The school doesn't pay for it, because it's a field trip.
That's not what the form that we received. It says $195 per student. It doesn't say the parents are paying for it.
But they do.
Okay, maybe we should get better information. When the people that
It's
fill
been
out-
this way forever, so
bill-
it hasn't changed, Bill.
Oh, it's forever, so we'll keep doing it forever.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're gonna speak to each
basically.
other with respect.
I'm sorry?
We're gonna address our comments to the chair. So you're requesting that in the future, things be more specifically outlined, and that's noted, and we will make sure to do that.
Yeah, and that's not just this. Most of the information we get, there's a form that people fill out, but they don't do a very good job of filling it out. So this is completely misleading.
Understood. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Ms. Henry?
Yes.
Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkis?
Yes, except we're required to abstain.
Mrs. Gaden?
Yes.
Thank you.
Section 13, the Personnel Committee, Ms. Sheridan Celia will present.
The Personnel Committee reviews all recommendations for teaching and staff employment, considers co-curricular employment, and considers all professional development opportunities for staff members. This evening, I'm seeking approval of items 13.02 through 13.16. Item 13.02 is an FMLA, NJ, FLA request. 13.03 and 13.04 are retirements of two very valued members of our staff. Ms. Roof is retiring, and Nurse Tryfin is retiring. I'm sorry, Ms. Tryfin is retiring, and she's been with the district for over 30 years, I believe. Yeah. 13.05 is a resignation. 13.06 is the appointment of a special education teacher. 13.07 is the appointment of a 12-month secretary. 13.08 is the appointment of long-term sub for PE. The next one is 13.09 is a long-term sub replacement teacher. Items 13.10 through 13.11 are appointments of the elementary and high school high-intensity tutoring facilitators. 13.12 is the appointment of high school non-athletic stipends. 13.13 is athletic event personnel. And 13.15, substitutes and tutors. We have a few additions. And 13.16 is a travel expense form. And we're seeking approval of items 13.02 through 13.16 this evening.
Thank you. Motion to approve said items?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Ms. Henry? Yes. Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes, except those items marked with a double asterisk where I abstain.
Mr. Dilkis?
Yes, except where required to abstain.
Mrs. Kaden?
Sorry, yes. Section 14, the Culture, Climate, and Policy Committee, Ms. Savarino will present.
The Policy and Regulations Committee reviews all updates and changes of district policy and regulations. Tonight, looking for approval of items 14.02 to 14.04. We have policies up for first reading. 3161, examination for cause, which basically determines physical, mental fitness to perform for teaching staff. 3324, and that is right of privacy, lays out what teaching staff members can expect in terms of privacy, which is reduced from a private setting. 4161, which is examination for cause for support staff. 4324, right of privacy, which is the same as as I outlined, but for support staff. And then 6112, reimbursement of, sorry, what did I lost? Thank you. Reimbursement of, I got it, yeah. Contracts for goods or services funded by federal grants. So it's basically reimbursement of federal and other grant expenditures. Updated the existing policy, which laid out how the New Jersey Department of Ed will follow federal guidelines, which require a state to minimize time between transferring funds from Treasury and expenditure of funds for programs. So those were all the policies that were up for first read. 1403 were the policies up for second read, and that was 2270, religion in schools, 3212, attendance, 4212, attendance, 5116, education of homeless children and youths, 8500, food services, and then for 1404, we had regulations. These require one reading, 3212, attendance, 4212, attendance, and then 5116, education of homeless children and youth. So tonight, looking for approval of items 1402 to 1404.
Thank you. Motion to approve said items.
So moved.
And a second? Second. Questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Ms. Henry? Yes. Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaden?
Yes. Section 15, miscellaneous. We have one item for approval this evening, 15.01, which is the previous month's HIB report, which is the anti-bullying report for the month of November. The report includes both potential and confirmed instances of bullying and includes the outcome of each investigation. Motion to approve item 15.01. And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
And for the last time, Ms. Henry?
Yes.
Sorry, we're already bummed out. Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mr. Stotts?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaden?
Yes. Section 16 is our final opportunity for public participation. I don't think anybody new came in since I read this the first time, so this is for anything on the agenda. We are all actively listening, and in fairness to all who wish to speak, there's a 3-minute time limit per person during public comment. Please remember to state your name and address for the record.
Wayne Rossi, 114 East Palmer Ave. Yeah, I wanted to, actually, I thought it was interesting that the curriculum audit came up, because I actually think that that sounds like something that would be really a positive. And I wanted to ask again, because I think I had mentioned it at one of the open discussion forums, that I think it would be great to hear more about how the curriculum crosswalks are happening in the actual practice in the schools, and how effective it is, and if there's any like changes that need to be made with regard to making sure the curriculum that's being presented to students is really reflecting diversity and values that I think the school district has. The other thing I was hoping we'd hear by now, and haven't, I know in previous months you mentioned that the report on the SLO had been postponed. I still haven't heard anything about it, so I was hoping to hear about that soon. And I continue to maintain that this SLO should not be armed while on school grounds. Thank you.
Seeing that it doesn't look like anyone is going to stand up, we have come to section 17, motion to adjourn this evening. Nobody wants to do it? Oh. Second. All in favor? Aye. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone.
You
Thank
too.
you.